We all chase that feeling of inner freedom, right? We picture it as this big, sunny exhale of pure relief. But what if the path to actually getting there doesn't start with calm, but with chaos? Today, we're going to dive into why true freedom can feel so incredibly unsettling at first. And this is the crazy part, why that might be the best sign that you're on the right track.
Okay, so take a second. Really think about this. If you could snap your fingers and have complete inner freedom right now, what's the first feeling that pops into your head? Is it peace? Maybe joy? A feeling of being light? Whatever it is, hold on to that thought because we are about to turn it completely on its head.
And here's the thing, the contrast is just stark. On one side, you have the expectation, pure relief. Shedding all your burdens should feel like finally dropping a super heavy backpack. But the reality? Well, at least in the beginning, it's something a lot more like groundlessness. It's like you've been suddenly let go in zero gravity and you have no idea which way is up, down, or sideways. So this brings us to our first big idea here, what we're calling the myth of freedom. We really need to unpack why this feeling of liberation, this thing we all want so badly, so often starts with this deep, nagging sense of discomfort. This right here, this is the bold, kind of counterintuitive idea at the very heart of all this. Inner freedom rarely feels liberating in the beginning. I mean, we're told our whole lives that freedom is the ultimate prize, right? But that first taste of it can honestly feel like you've just made a massive mistake. So, why is that? Well, the answer is really in our wiring. See, our minds absolutely crave structure. They need a framework, something to hold on to make sense of the world. And here's the wild part. That's true even if the structure itself is painful. Think about it. A stressful job, a tough relationship, that little voice in your head that's always criticizing you, they might be bad, but they're known. They're predictable. Freedom comes in and just rips that structure away. And the mind, it totally panics.
And that panic, that leads us straight into our next section, the anxiety of groundlessness. We're going to look at that void that gets left behind when all our old familiar structures just crumble away.
This really shows the chain reaction perfectly. It's like a domino effect. First, all the old rules and roles that defined you, poof, they just dissolve. And suddenly, that sense of control you thought you had, even if it was totally an illusion, it's gone. Your mind starts scrambling, desperately looking for anything to grasp onto. And that frantic search, that feeling of having no anchor, that right there is what we feel as anxiety. Okay, so this is absolutely the key takeaway here. That spike of anxiety is not a red flag telling you to turn back. It is not a sign that you're failing. It is the feeling of old, rigid patterns losing their grip on you. It's actually a signal that the process is working, which is pretty wild when you think about it. So let's put a name to the thing we're actually losing control of. Let's call them the inner commands. You know what I'm talking about. It's that relentless voice inside your head. The one that's always telling you who you must be, what you have to prove to be worthy, and exactly how you need to act to be acceptable. And when those commands finally stop shouting, what's left? Just silence. And this is so, so important. If you've spent your whole life being guided by that kind of pressure, that sudden quiet doesn't feel peaceful at all. It can feel terrifyingly empty. It's like you've just lost your only map, your only guide. Which, of course, brings us to the major turning point in this whole journey. What to do with the sound of silence? What do you do in that scary, empty space? How do you possibly navigate it without just sprinting right back to the old, familiar prisons you just escaped from? Okay, this is it. This is the work. Your first instinct, your gut reaction is going to be to fill that void immediately with noise, with new projects, with literally anything to not feel that discomfort. But the key, the real game-changing step, is to fight that urge. It's about finding the courage to just stay with the silence, to just sit there and see what happens. Because what happens if you can do that? If you can actually sit in that discomfort long enough, something pretty incredible starts to shift. You don't just find a new list of rules to follow. No, instead, you start to sense something else emerging, a deeper, much quieter kind of intelligence. And this new intelligence, it's completely different from those old inner commands. It's not a bully. It doesn't use fear or pressure to get its way. It doesn't shout. It doesn't force anything. It's gentle. So what is this deeper intelligence? It's your intuition, plain and simple. It's that core, authentic part of you that's finally getting a chance to be heard, now that all the shouting from the inner commands has died down. This is the real prize for making it through that feeling of groundlessness.
All right, so as we start to wrap this up, let's really look at what this all means. This whole journey brings us to, well, a truer way home, and it forces us to completely redefine what it even means to be free.
And this lays out that new definition just perfectly. See, freedom isn't about just doing whatever you want whenever you want. That's not it at all. True inner freedom is when you're no longer being pushed around by what you fear. You're no longer a puppet to your anxieties and your compulsions. It's about acting from a place of authenticity, not just reacting out of impulse. So what does life actually feel like from this new place? Well, for one, it's lighter. You're not carrying that immense weight of all those inner commands anymore. For another, it feels truer. You're finally moving in sync with your own intuition. But, and this is super important, notice that last point. This life isn't necessarily easier. It takes courage every day. But the reward is a life that is genuinely, authentically yours. And that is the final beautiful shift. That awful feeling of groundlessness, of being unsettled and just lost in space, it slowly starts to transform. The silence stops being so frightening, and it actually starts to feel familiar, even comfortable. And that's the moment. That's when freedom stops feeling so unsettling and finally starts feeling like home.